Hello and welcome to Just Films and That. This is the podcast where we talk about films that we think might be underrated, underseen, or we just wanted to talk about them. I'm the host for this week, Josh Hallam, and I'm joined, as ever, by the lovely Alice Oliver. Alice, how you doing?
There you go.
You're
Bet you didn't
wasted
think
in
you'd
your
get
job.
that. What a little treat for you there, Josh. A Christmassy treat for
When's
you.
the album coming out, Alice?
Oh,
When is the
in
album
due
coming
course,
out?
in due course. Don't worry, just me doing all the musical bits to Christmassy songs.
Alice Oliver sings the very best of Christmas carols. How you doing? You all right?
Yes, very well, thank you. Feeling Christmassy,
Yep.
Christmassy. How about you, Josh?
I'm also feeling Christmassy, and you know what it
Very
means
good.
because it's Christmas. You know what we've got, don't you?
Have we got a very special guest about to come on?
It's a very special guest, almost like a present. Let's say it's a present to the
lovely.
listeners and us as well. We're joined by the wonderful Harriet Kemsley. Harriet, how you doing?
Hello. I am very well, thank you. How are you guys?
Yes, good, thank you.
Very
We're
good, thank you.
Are you a Christmassy person? I think you are. You must be.
I love Christmas. I think it's quite obvious about me. My husband's not very into it, so it's like a constant battle. But yeah, I'm really into it, like in like an embarrassing kind of way.
Perfect for the Christmas episode, though. We've definitely got the right person on board.
Yeah, you're basically one step away from Father Christmas. Then, like,
Yeah.
you're like, why doesn't your husband like it? Is it like a? Does he need three ghosts to come and?
Yeah, he's just really miserable, you know. He just like. No, I don't know. He's like, oh, you know, they're like tricking us into spending money, and I'm like, I don't care. I want to be tricked. Stop making me realise the truth. I don't want to know.
Willingly tricked. Take my money.
Let me
Take
live
it.
in my ignorance.
Just let me have it. Just let me have this.
Yeah, just let me have it.
When,
it's really a real downer, to be honest.
When's the tree go up?
I have to wait until Christmas, but I will start. Maybe I'll start listening to songs a little bit before.
Yeah.
But then, still the beginning of December. I make him. There's this place that sells Christmas trees. We live in like Herne Hill. Like we live on the edge of it, and the centre of it's like quite fancy. And they have like a Christmas tree thing in the park where they sell them, and it's like so lovely. And you go and pick one out, and then he has to carry it home. And but last time, to be fair, we went there and we looked all around it, and then our local shop was selling them for half the price. And so we went there, kind of pretended we were going to pick one, and then just got one from the local shop, and then he didn't have to carry it so far, so he was happy with that.
What about you,
Christmas
Alice? When does the tree go up? Or does the
1st of
Christmas
December.
Tree 1st of
Try
December.
and get 1st of December. Try and get out 1st of December every time. Really soak up all that Christmas
Advent
cheer.
calendar day.
You know? Hey?
Advent calendar day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing as well.
That's it. Try to think when so I grew up next to a Christmas tree farm.
Wow.
So it always smelt of pine.
How
nice.
magical!
I know, yeah.
That is pretty magical,
You think so? You think they weren't decorated, so they just sort of look like trees. But yeah, so we always did our second weekend in December, sort of like the 10th, around
Quite
that time.
bleak in January for you guys, maybe.
Yeah,
just a load
we
of
take them back, put them back in.
Yeah,
See you next year. Okay, so we will move on then to talking about this week's film, which is, of course, a lovely Christmassy film. It is Elf from 2003, so spoiler warnings if you've not seen Elf from 2003, although I'd be very surprised if you have not seen it. Harriet, you chose this one, so give us a little breakdown of what is Elf about for the people who haven't seen it, and why did you pick it for this podcast?
I love Elf so much. It's my favourite film. My husband says, gives me a limit of when I'm allowed to watch it every year. Otherwise, I watch it too much. I cannot wait to introduce my daughter to Elf. If she doesn't like it, I don't know what I'm going to do. I just think it's a magical film that's very pure. My dream role in life would be to play female elf. And I just think it's wonderful. I think that it's really funny. He's like, okay, the plot is there's a man, right?
The plot of Elf, ladies and gentlemen, the plot of Elf.
The plot of Elf is that there's a man, but he's kind of a child, but he is a man, but he thinks that he's an elf. He has no idea, even though he's much bigger. So there's some kind of brain damage or something going on, but he just loves Christmas so much because he lives in the elf land. but then like he's really bad at like doing all the elf stuff, and they all like just think he's so shit, but like they just are like, oh no, good for you, just keep going, you know. And then he finds out that he's not actually an elf, and like he makes the trip from Iceland to New York, which is like they really underplay like how hard a journey and what a grueling journey that must have been actually, for one man to travel from Iceland to New York. He gets to New
It's
York.
from the North Pole, Harriet. Just tell it's from the North Pole, not
Wait,
Iceland.
what's Iceland?
It's
Where
an
is
actual
That's its own
Iceland's
country that's just a bit
country.
chilly.
It's like-
where is the North Pole?
That's the
top
at
of
the
the
Arctic.
poles?
The very top. The
Oh
very
my
top
God.
of the world.
Where's Lapland?
Finland.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Did you
Father
think the
Christmas
North
also
Pole was?
lives
insane.
there,
You
I
think
think.
not-
I
you
thought
thought the North Pole was in
in
Iceland?
Iceland, which I thought was in Lapland.
So like
No.
so like about 10 years ago when Iceland's economy crashed, we were like, well, that's it. No Christmas.
No one's Santa.
No toys. So yeah, it's the North Pole. So he travels to the North Pole to New York to try and find his dad.
Yeah.
And that's Elf.
So why did you pick this one then? Do you think it's underrated, underseen, or is it just because it's your favourite film and you're just desperate to talk about it?
It's my favourite film, but it does seem to make people very angry. It's even members of my family, they're like,
Really?
for fuck's sake, like they're really like, they don't find it funny, they find it annoying, like it really can wind people up the wrong way, I think, actually. It seems like you've never met any of these haters.
I don't think
have.
so.
But
But is this because, though, Harriet, is it because you watch it all the time? Is that maybe like made it a bit shit for everyone? Because you're like every day of the year, elf, elf, elf. It's not funny anymore.
It's starting to make sense now why people might hate Elf so much that are close to me.
It's like bank holiday, August bank holiday. Do you want to come around for a barbecue? We're gonna stick Elf on. What?
Yeah.
But no, I have had the same thing as you. Is like I have known people who it has been quite polarizing. So I have had people who be like, I just
North polarizing.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
North polarizing.
Very
Yeah, I like people who just gone. I just find it annoying. Whereas
Oh.
rather
Yeah.
than I think we'll
Interesting.
get stuck into what we think about it then, because for me it took me a little while for this film to win me round. I think when I first watched it, I would have been like 12, so I think I was like, I'm not liking anything. Whereas
Too smart for Elf when
Yeah.
you're 12.
yeah, when I was and then when I got older, I was like, this is full of joy. This is just
Yeah.
such an amazing film.
So you had seen it before then, Josh?
Yeah.
I just think it's a good test if someone has like a Christmas spirit or not. So clearly you didn't have it when you were 12, but you found it as an adult.
And I can't, 31th. I don't, yeah. It doesn't make any sense. Yes, I had seen it before. What about you, Alice? I think we know the answer, but had you seen Elf
Yeah,
before?
seen it loads. Absolutely love it. We
Yes.
all love it in my
Yeah.
household. I think that's why I was surprised when you said about that. My mum loves it. My sister loves it. We all. Yeah, I just love it. It's sweet. It's funny. It is full of joy. It's so Christmassy in so many different ways that I think we'll get into. But yeah, I assumed that you'd pick this because you just really wanted to. But I'm really interested now that there are people out there who don't like it. So now I'm even more interested to find out what the critical reception was at the end. So that'll be fun. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Elf.
Well, let's get stuck into it then, and we'll talk about the critical reception once we've had a little chat about what we like and what we don't like. So, Harriet, can you pin it down as to what you like, or is it just one of those things where you just love it, you watch it all the time, every year?
I think that I love like the innocence in it. Like I think it's really fun. I think I suddenly I was suddenly thinking about it like the other day, and then I suddenly had like a realization of actually why I might have loved it, that I never even thought about before. And that's because I don't think I saw Elf when it first came out. I think I saw it a few years later, and I actually went and I lived in New York for like a year when I was 19, and I think I was Elf. And so
it's biographical.
It's all making sense. I think I really sympathise with being in that big city and then just being like, do, and everyone be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And so I think that might be what it is. And obviously, I grew up among elves.
That makes that. To be fair, that's that's very funny, but at the same time, that does actually sound like a genuine thing that you could relate to, like a fish out of water type type story, like person in a big city, that sort of thing, in a big,
Yeah.
and
Literally walking around New York, like not knowing anyone, like feeling like you're just like don't belong somewhere and you're completely different. And yeah, I think that might be part of it, and also just like the magic of Christmas.
what took you to New York then? Was it you trying
So
to find
I
your
went.
dad?
I was trying to find my dad. I found out I wasn't actually an elf, and it was so heartbreaking. And so I had to go to New York City, and then I got a job working at Macy's, which is called something else in the film, I think. And then I fell in love with a girl that worked there that I thought was an elf. And then I like perved on her one time when she was in the shower. No, I went to drama school over there. And it was this mad year. Like I only went for a year. I was meant to go for longer, but I was like, I don't know, like I had to come back, but it was like the funnest, best year in the end. But it was like very daunting, like when I first moved there. Yeah, it was so yeah, I just went over there, and it was I lived it was crazy. We were at this school, and then like we lived in the New Yorker hotel on the 13th floor, and it was like, so it's like this famous hotel, but there was like this student floor was like grim. There was like cockroaches and like mice, and it was just down the road from Macy's and like the Empire State Building, so a lot of places where it was filmed. So I used to walk past there like on the way to like school, so it was yeah, it was. I think that might have been part of the reason why I love it so much.
That's definitely got to be part of the reason. That
Were you
that sort of
there?
relatability.
Were you there for a Christmas? Did you see Christmas there?
Yeah,
Did you
I
see the
didn't
Christmas
spend-
tree?
The Rockefeller Center and all
so I
that.
saw the Christmas tree. It was like the most like it was amazing. Like Halloween and Christmas there is like the best. And then January comes and it's like fucking bleak.
Oh
like
God, I
the
bet.
wind like whistles down the corners and you're like it's inhumane. But yeah, it was amazing.
Oh man,
Wow.
magical.
So I think that definitely explains it. I don't think we've ever had someone have such a personal experience with a film that's like so relatable for them. So Alice, then what do you like about Elf? Then you've already said you sort of love it. What specifically do you
love it.
like?
So to be general, so it's sweet, it's fun, and it's funny, it's Christmassy, it sounds lovely, and it looks lovely. And a little bit deeper than that, it is a great story about someone who feels like they don't fit in anywhere. So to be more specific about a few things, it is really funny. There's some brilliant gags and one-liners in there. So Buddy's naivete is obviously a big source of the comedy, but then also how the characters around him act, both in the North Pole and in New York. There are plenty of great comic moments in this, but the two that really stand out for me are when Buddy is leaving the North Pole for New York and he jumps on that little floating patch of ice, and there's like, I think, a puffin, a walrus, and a polar bear all waving and saying goodbye to him, which is as heartbreaking as it is funny. And then Mr. Narwhal pops up and he goes, "Bye, Buddy, I hope you find your dad." And this is great because you've got like this additional like style going on, right? It's like this like claymation almost, like type of animation thing that's going on, which then adds to the childlike wonder and the Christmassy spirit of the whole thing. And this is one of the best scenes in the North Pole, I reckon. And then the other is, so when he gets to New York through the Lincoln Tunnel, and you've got this montage of him discovering new things and exploring the city, like eating discarded chewing gum or spinning round and round in the revolving door, congratulating the cafe on making the world's best coffee. And this sequence goes on for quite a while, like much longer than it needed to be. And there was such a risk here that it would get repetitive and boring and then might lose the audience. But I don't think it did. It is just funny and endearing all the way through. And I was just really impressed that they kept finding things to keep you amused instead of it being like, oh yeah, we get it. It's like, whoa, the big city. But the whole thing was just funny and endearing, and I loved it. What about you, Josh? What were some of the things that you liked about Elf?
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on what you're saying there, there's lots of different types of things in this that do make you laugh. From the beginning, where you've got a lot of so the whole thing is like we said, it's like a fish out of water type comedy, isn't it? But you've got things at the beginning like he's massive, he's much bigger than anyone else. So loads of really practical jokes where he's too big for the shower and he's sitting on his little elf dad's knee and he's 4 times as big as him and all that. But what they do is they know how to rein it in. So like you say, those fish out of water jokes go and go and go. but they slowly taper off and they don't over egg the pudding, so to speak. I think they find the balance really, really well. So like you say, the world's best cup of coffee, or they find other bits of comedy in the mundanity of like being in New York. So like him not knowing how to use an escalator, that sort of thing, which I think is really,
That's
really,
funny.
really funny. Obviously,
Hmm.
big part of that is Will Ferrell's performance. I mean, he's just so if this was he was he's getting there at this point, wasn't he? But he was not the massive household name that he is now. And I think that there was no weight of expectation on him when this came out. So I think he's very fresh. And he's doing something that you've not really seen him do in other films. So since he has become a massive comic actor, you see him do a lot of the same stuff over and over again. I mean, we've all seen a Will Ferrell sports related comedy. There's about 6 or 7 of them where he sort of does very similar stuff. And it's very successful and stuff, but this is really fresh for me. It's really good to see because it's completely different to anything he's done before, and stuff like that. And obviously he keeps the energy up all the way through it. I mean, it looks exhausting if you think about
Hmm.
how a film is made and how many takes things take and all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
It's not, you
Very
know.
physical.
And I know,
Very
I mean,
physical.
and we'll go on to this, but I know he's been approached multiple times and asked about sequels, and he's just gone, there's no way I could do that again. Like
Yeah,
it, like
can't do it. Not got the
I haven't
energy.
got it in me, sort of thing. So yeah, so that's good. And generally, like you say, it's very sweet. It's very, very charming. But the overall look of the film, I've never watched it. I've only ever watched it, to enjoy it around Christmas. Like you, Harry, I watch it every Christmas. Usually put this on at least once, present wrapping, whatever you're doing at the time, having it on. It's up there with like the Muppets and other Christmas films and all that for me. But I've never looked at it with that critical eye before. And I was looking at it and I was looking at the way all the costumes and the sets are, and I was thinking this could have gone horribly wrong. Like it could have been like a weird Hallmark Christmas Channel type film. And they get the balance and the costumes and everything and the settings and the way it all looks and the aesthetic. They get it looking so perfect that it works just right. But it easily in the hands of like a less skilled director or a less skilled team, it could have been a mess. Like it could have been
It's weird,
like
isn't it? Because
and
on
it's not.
paper, it's so cheesy and
Yeah.
so daft, but it doesn't feel like sickening and it doesn't feel like bad. I think like you say, it's just they get the balance right.
Mm,
And I think John Favreau as well directing, I think that's a smart choice to do something like this because you would maybe expect maybe someone more experienced with children's films
mm.
or like traditionally more family films. So it was interesting to get him on board and I think that
I
really
think he wrote
works.
it. Didn't he write it?
Did he write
Yeah,
it
I
as
think
well?
so.
I
Yeah.
think so. If he didn't write it, he definitely must have had a massive hand in it because you
Mm.
can sort
Mm.
of tell with the way it's made. And I think he's quite an underrated director, to be honest, John Favreau. I mean, he's
Mm.
done, obviously everyone knows he's done like Iron Man and other massive films like the remake of the Lion King and stuff like that. But then
Oh.
this is really, really good. And then he's also did a film called Chef, which is really good, where he takes like a chef,
Mm.
he becomes a food truck guy
Oh
and he drives around. So
yeah.
he's done a lot of films, and I think he's underrated. But I think this was sort of one of his definitely his big break as a director because this was quite a big hit. But I think it was quite an unexpected hit. Like if you consider everything in it and the time it came out, it is a roll of the dice, I think, and I think it went really well. I think it went really well because they, like you say, they got the balance so right between jokes, daftness, and sweetness.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Because if they'd have gone too sweet, it would never have lasted as long as it's lasted. And if they'd have gone too funny, it'd have ended up being like a sort of like a bad Santa type adult comedy. Do you know what I mean? So that's what we think. What can you tell us anything more specific you like about it, Harriet, or is it just you just love it? Is there something every year? Do you look forward to a particular scene or what else?
I agree that I love the montage bit.
Mm.
I've never really thought about it like that. I think you just put that really well. Like I love. I mean, the whole film could have just been that. Like I love like watching him just wander around, just doing different things. Just I would watch him just exploring New York. I love that. I love his interactions with his family. I think you're right. It's so sweet, but then there also I think it works on both level for like it works for like my childish like, and I think also I'm someone that quite often I would do something that people might see as a bit naive, and so I sympathise with him a lot in his behaviour, maybe in people's reactions to him, sometimes of anger, and the inability to kind of function properly. But the only thing that one thing that I've never really loved as much is the ending. I was just
Mm.
thinking about that recently. I never really think about the ending. I think the first 2/3 are the kind of best bit, and the ending I never really. I think it just becomes a bit more like a normal film maybe then. Yeah, that's the only bit that I never. I could just watch the first 2/3 without the ending maybe.
So what is it? That moves. In that case, let's move on nicely. Talking about anything we didn't like. Then what is it? Is there a bit where you think it turns? Is it the bit where they're all singing? Is it right at the end? The little montage at the end. What bit is it? Do you think?
I don't know. There's just like whenever I think of it, the ending just seems like a different film.
I know what you mean. Like it feels like it goes from sort of comedy to proper saccharine sweet Christmas film.
Yeah,
when they're all singing.
It loses its edge a bit, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Because I hadn't really thought about it, but now that you say it, I do agree with you, and I can you do sort of feel that. And I wonder if it's because up until that point, the only crossover between the two worlds of the North Pole and New York is Buddy. And then obviously towards the end of the film, Santa gets involved in New York. And so then he's there. And then at the very end, you've got Jovi who goes up to the North Pole with Buddy to go and see his dad, and they've got a baby and stuff. So you're trying to sort of meld the worlds both together, and maybe it just doesn't work, and it works stronger when it is just Buddy, who is this kind of fish out of water character from the North Pole in New York. And then when you try and like bring more characters into that and into that fold, maybe that just doesn't work. I'm not sure if that is it, but I do know what you mean.
I think the first 2/3, the jokes are so tight and funny, and then it just isn't. I don't know why that is. And you're right, maybe it's like he's not a fish out of water anymore, and so it loses the thing, like he's started to belong, and so maybe it's not. But yeah, from that bit when there's like Santa in the sky, like it just maybe it's from even a little bit earlier, like it with the book, it just kind of. Yeah, it loses me a little bit.
I think that's a really good point, because for me there's a few things that they don't build up. The first is that obviously his dad just has a character motivation change on a dime. He just changes like that and goes, "Oh, I'm gonna go and be with my family." But for the whole film, you've seen him just being a hard ass who just wants to work all the time, and there's not really an inciting incident that makes him go, "Oh, actually, yeah, I'm gonna change." But then the other thing I think, and I was thinking about this whilst I was watching it, is they don't build up the fact that everyone doesn't believe in Father Christmas enough. So the whole point of the last bit is that the Christmasometer or the clausometer is low and no one believes. Yeah, sorry.
Please, Josh. Please.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. It's they bring it in a little bit at the beginning when he's showing him how to build the sleigh, and then it just comes back again at the end. But because a lot of in between is the fish out of water stuff, it comes back and you're like, oh yeah, people don't. The whole point is that like Christmas wishes and Christmas cheer is dying out, so we're gonna get everyone to do it by singing. But it feels a little bit like it comes out of nowhere, like they've gone, oh, we need to wrap this up, so we've done this.
Someone at the company has said, look, we need to have a song at the end, and they've gone, it doesn't say the script, and then they've had to add it in.
Yeah, that's what it feels. That's what it feels a little bit like as well. So, what about you, Alice? Is there anything else? Is there anything else that you don't like about Elf? Feels like a bit like kicking a puppy. This, doesn't it?
No, because we had so many nice things to say. So it's good. It's good to find the balance. But there is just one thing that I made note of that I don't like about this film. So it's when Jovi is first introduced to the story. So when Buddy sees her for the first time, the camera does this really weird punch-in zoom thing with cross dissolves. So she's in the image, and then the image fades to like a medium close-up of her, and then fades again into a close-up of her. And there's 3 transitions in total, I believe. And it just looks so fucking weird, and it's not in keeping with any of the other techniques that they use throughout the film. And I found it really jarring and just a really peculiar choice, because I don't think they use crossfades at all anywhere else in the film. And it's just for that moment, because they obviously want to heighten, kind of try and evoke the feelings that Buddy is feeling when he sees her for the first time. I guess when he sees, a human woman for the first time, just happens to be the first woman he sees, sort of thing. It's like, I love you now. But it was just a weird technical choice, and I just wasn't here for it. And I was a bit like, oh, I noticed that and I didn't like it. And if it was smooth, I wouldn't have noticed it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was it. That was literally it. I loved it otherwise. What about you, Josh? Was there anything that you didn't like?
So there's one big thing. The first little thing, which is this is the first time I've watched it since James Caan died, because obviously he died this year, didn't he? So that made me a little bit sad, Because I was like, I forgot about that. The big thing, and I've never noticed this before, and again, it comes back to that thing we talked about before. We're trying to watch it with a critical eye, and because we always go and try and find a balanced thing of what did and I didn't like, I don't think this film needs a love story.
Boo! Oh no, actually, I do agree. Actually, I just always love a love story, but maybe you're right.
Well, first of all, Buddy's got some serious mummy issues.
Look, he's a big creep. That is one of the issues. I think you're right. You don't want to think about it too much about, because you're like, wait, this is like a big kid that like has like some brain damage or something, and like I don't know, like. Yeah,
and like you say, it's the first woman he sees. He's like, woman, and then he's like falls in love with her. But he's not seen or dealt with as a romantic or like sexual character. So
because he's so childlike.
And then why would she be like, well, let's have a baby? Like it's quite,
and like the whole being in the bathroom thing when she's in the shower and like really early in the morning when it's still dark and stuff.
Because I thought about that. I was like, oh, he's in the shower and she's in the shower, and then I thought, well, he's meant to be innocent. Maybe he doesn't know what's going on, but it shows him in the shower at the North Pole, so he must have showers. So he must know. Well, the lady elves go in lady elf showers.
But then he doesn't know. But then I guess he doesn't see a problem with someone being naked or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, like, maybe that's the thing.
Oh no, when we don't want to think about him having sex. Like it's just like it just feels bad.
It's a bit odd, isn't it? Because of his childlike state and the way his brain's developed.
She's much younger than him, I think.
She seems to be. She definitely is like
so
in real life.
He's meant to be 30, isn't he? But Will Ferrell has never looked 30. He's always looked at least 45, right? Always.
And Zooey Deschanel is at least 10 years younger than him. She must be.
Yeah.
Would have been nicer as best friend.
Well, that's it. It doesn't need a love story. It could just be, this is my friend, and then but then, you know, like you're saying, people go, well, we need a love story, we need a romantic lead. So that's what you're doing. So I don't know, but there was an element of A, I don't believe it. I don't buy him as a romantic character. And B, why would she romantically fall for him? Like, has she got like a happy sugar-filled guy kink type of thing? Because
well, I always thought it was because she comes across as quite a miserable character, and you know, she lives alone, and it looks like she's going to be spending Christmas on her own, so she obviously doesn't have anyone around her who she cares about and any friends really. And then you've got someone who's just so like in awe about life and just finds excitement and joy in everything. So I think that was where her connection to him comes from. But yeah, I don't think it's 100% necessary. Like, it doesn't ruin it for me. But if it wasn't there, I probably wouldn't feel like anything was missing.
No.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, then. So let's move on to talking about the critical reception then. Now, I think it's probably safe to say, and feel free to disagree with me, but this is not underseen. It's a massively watched film.
I agree.
A lot of Christmas films aren't particularly underseen. But it could be underrated. Now, Harriet, you picked this because you just love it. You want to talk about it. So we'll see what you think of this critical reception, right? Alice, how do you think it did?
So coming into this, I thought it would have done quite well. But after what Harriet said and what you said, I'm wondering if I was just like in my own little bubble where you just kind of assume that everyone likes it just because you do and everyone you know knows likes it too. So I would have said easily into the sevens, like maybe like a mid-7, but I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Maybe go for like a high 6, like maybe like I'll say a 68 or 6.8, but I would give it like a 7.5. I think this is easily into the 7s. It's
7.5.
It's fun. It's so much fun, this film.
What about you, Harriet? How do you think it did critically, and what would you give it?
I'd give it a 9. But I think that critically it did. I don't know. I remember reading an interview with Will Ferrell saying that it did seem like a risk and they didn't know if it was going to work, and then it really did. So I guess that means that they did think it did well, and that people liked it. But I think just people just really like to shit on things that are fun. So I'd say like
that's true.
Yeah, I agree. Like 6 is probably
okay. So let's have a look then. At the time of recording on IMDb, it gets a flat 7 out of 10.
Okay,
that's good. That's good. 7.
On Rotten Tomatoes, the audience give it 79%.
Oh, very good.
Good for the audience.
The critics, however, gave it on Rotten Tomatoes 85%.
Wow.
Yeah. So that averages
good.
78%. Now
Brilliant.
for me,
Perfect.
I'll happily throw my hat in the ring. 78% is underrated for this.
Do you think
I'm
still
I'm with Harriet. I think this is a 9.
It's magic.
Because it stood, it's
wild.
20 years old next year. It stood the test of time. It will continue to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
And when you're looking
right.
at what makes like a brilliant family blockbuster type film, this has got everything. Like this is the
Ticks
sort
all
of
the
film
boxes.
that people will want to show their kids. Like Harriet said, can't wait to watch it with a daughter. I don't have any children yet, but I can't wait to watch this with my kids. Like when I do. So I think this is up there with it's definitely up there. One of the most perfect Christmas films. And I'd say it's a solid 9 out of 10. So I think 78% is slightly underrated. So what would you say to that, Alice? What say you?
So for me, I would say 78 is probably appropriately rated, but I can totally agree with everything that you just said. And getting the Christmas film formula right and making sure that people still want to watch it every year and still can watch it every year. It's good for the adults. It's good for the kids. It does tick all those boxes. And this is a democracy and it's 2 versus 1. So we can definitely safely put Elf in the underrated pile.
Well, there we go.
Well, I'm sad that it's underrated, but I'm clapping because we agree with this.
Well, there we go. Elf is underrated. I'm quite surprised at that. I'm quite surprised. I don't know, because I thought it might have got a kicking, but then also I thought it might have done really well. I really was not sure how it had done.
Hard
but
to say, wasn't it?
It's
It's one of them. Sometimes we go into this and you think it's got to be really obvious what's going to happen, but with this, I was like undecided, but very impressed with that critic score.
Because I can imagine a critic watching this and going, this isn't for me. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, maybe it's just so well made that it just gets you. You can't help it. You know what I mean?
I just think critics probably don't celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, I would probably agree.
So, Harriet, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This was very fun.
It's all right. It's okay. So where can everyone who's listening look out for your stuff? What have you got going on?
I'm on tour with my new show, Honeysuckle Island. There's tickets at harrietkemsley.com, or I'm on Instagram at Harriet Kemsley. And then I'm going to be taping the show at some point early next year. So if my tour is nearly finished, which I think it probably will be by the time this comes out, then I think some of my last shows are in Canterbury and Norwich. But if they're done, then I will be taping the show in London at some point early next year.
Wow.
Very exciting. Where's that tape going to be?
I don't know yet. I really want to do it in a Pizza Express because I really love Pizza Express, but people are like, you have to focus on the place. It's going to be good for the show. So I've got to stop thinking about the fact that I could have like dough balls afterwards and really focus on the venue choice.
So sorry. So I did mean where would people be able to watch the tape after it has been taped? But that is also really interesting to know. Is guys, look out for Harriet in a Pizza Express near
in my
you.
head, it's not shut. The Pizza Express is still open, so it's just like in a corner.
Yeah, you just do in the corner doing
it. Sorry. Who ordered the?
Yeah, just be at a Pizza Express near you soon, guys.
Yep, look out for it.
I said thin crust. Go. So yeah, where can people find that when it's out, Harriet?
I don't know. I don't know. Just follow me on Instagram, and I'm sure I'll say where it's going to be.
Well, there we go. So we'll make sure when this comes out, we put links to your social medias and your Instagram and all that, and people will be able to check it out. Do check Harriet out. She's very, very funny, and if you get a chance to see her live, you will not regret it.
Thanks so much.
Sorry,
guys.
thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Harriet.
Well, there we go. Another guest one in the bag. Another Christmas episode done, and Elf is underrated.
There we are. I didn't see that come in. And even though I don't completely agree, I am happy about that.
Yeah. And that's because you have no Christmas spirit.
I just know maybe that I don't know everything. And the way I feel about stuff isn't always right with some things.
But no. Anyway, yes, Elf underrated in the underrated vault. Harriet, man, what a great guest. Thank you so much for coming on. So
she was lovely.
Brilliant.
She brought the fun and brought the energy.
Well, that's the thing,
a
isn't
joy
it?
to speak to her.
With the guest episodes is that when they come on and they love a film, which they always do, we've never had a guest be like, not asked really.
Yeah, just mediocre.
I think it makes for such fun conversation. But so thank you
does,
very much
doesn't
for
it?
Harriet coming on. Make sure you check out all the stuff on Instagram and Twitter, and we'll put links to that out when this comes out. Wherever at all comes out on streaming in whatever Pizza Express.
Yeah, that's
she
brilliant.
records it in.
I hope that happens. I hope when we see that video, she's in the Pizza Express getting her garlic dough balls.
Yes, do be sure to check it out. We'll put links when this comes out. Well, all that remains to be said is we'll be back next week with another episode in your ears. Please do feel to get in touch in the meantime. It's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. We're on all the social medias. Just search for Just Films and That. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, or all of them. Hit us up, get in touch, give us a suggestion for a film. We always love to hear from you. And we're on the television, aren't we, Alice?
We are indeed. Every Friday from 6 p.m, you can find me and Josh talking about our favourite underrated and underseen films on the local TV network. So if you live in Bristol, Birmingham, Leeds, Liverpool, or the northeast of England, you can find us on Channel 7 on Freeview. Or if you live in North Wales or South Wales, you can find us on Channel 8 on Freeview. Every Friday evening from 6 p.m.
Yes, that lots of ways to get in touch, see us, hear us, and as ever, we really, really appreciate all of your support. So all that remains to be said is we'll be back next week with another episode. Very excited to see you again, and it's goodbye from me. Cheerio, Merry Christmas!